Thank you. Just go on to question 2. Um, so as time goes on after treatment, mums sometimes discuss a loss of body confidence with their partners, which can lead to difficulties in those relationships, both in general and around intimacy. Do you have any suggestions as to how to address that?
Well, the first thing I would say is talk. Talk as much as you can, as often as you can, and as openly as you can with the people that you can trust. And I know that you guys will have, as well as yourselves, you will have different organizations and people that, you can refer on to or suggest for people to talk to. But I think, this links into that sense of acceptance, because without acceptance we're going to struggle. If we can't see our own bodies as acceptable, how can we ever learn to let somebody else see it that way? Even if somebody else tells us, I think your body's fine and I still love you, we're gonna believe our own thinking over somebody else's. And so what's key is to look at our own belief systems around our bodies and what's getting in the way of acceptance. But also, the word that came to mind when I was thinking about this question was shame. And I think that often when we talk about the difference between guilt and shame, they're quite similar, but shame kind of goes underground and it's secretive and nobody sees it and we hide it. And that in turn creates more secrecy and more shame and more hiding away. So why I say talk is because when we're open about things, when we can share things, and not with the whole world if you don't want to, but even with one person to hear somebody else's perspective, it gives us a balance on our perspective, but it also doesn't allow shame to build and grow, because shame loves secrecy. And I think that whilst I understand and recognise that we all may have feelings of shame around our bodies, our body image, what our bodies can and can't do anymore, they're functioning. Actually, it's not anybody's fault. So why would we have blame and shame? It's about saying, and I know that sometimes, you can think that you're the only person that that's going on for. And that brings a deeper sense of shame and a deeper sense of isolation. And so when we think that there's something that's secretive and we can't say, what I would say is really try if you can and challenge it. Really try and kind of step out of that and say, can I choose one person even? And it might be a person that we know, or it might be somebody that we don't know. It might be somebody from an organization or a therapist or whoever that might be, to share it with. Because I think what's really important with humans is we are not designed to work alone. We are designed to work in tribes, in villages, in companies. And so when we start to go underground with it and hide it away, we're going against what works best for us as humans. So find one person if that's the case. And it might be your partner, it might not be. But seek out somebody that you feel safe enough to share something that feels hard to share. And then it opens up a conversation. And number one, you don't feel alone. And number two, you hear different views that might just get you curious about the things that you're believing. Because I think what's really important to hear is we think all sorts of stuff. Me too, my goodness, if you could see my thoughts, you would, well, but thoughts that we have are not important. They're not who we are. They're just things that pass through us. But it's when we think that those thoughts are true that we get into trouble sometimes. Because, for many years, I believed that my self-worth was only possible if I was low weight. Now, if I'd carried on believing that thought, I wouldn't have recovered. If I'd have believed that my worth was only as important as my weight, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today. And I don't believe it anymore. So get curious about the things that you have once believed that you no longer believe, and think about, okay, can I step back a bit from those thoughts? Can I see them as something that feels really strong and important to me right now? but actually, is it the truth or is it my truth at the moment? And that's quite an important question, I'd say, to ask. Is it the truth that my body deserves to be hidden, or that I can't show it, or that, you know, I feel the shame? Or is it just my truth right now? And might that change? And might I be able to seek support in making that different? Because I think there are very few thoughts that are universally true all of the time. So it's stepping back a bit from what we believe. And maybe we can step back a bit with somebody else. But what I would say is stay in conversations with whoever it occurs to you to be in a conversation with, and just share some of those thoughts, because you might find that somebody else says, I can't believe you think that, or that's a curious thought. And then you might yourself start to get curious about it. Now, I also want to say that we, all of us, have really fixed beliefs in some areas of life. So it's not a failure on anybody's part if your thought really looks like the truth and you can't see beyond that just yet. That's where you are. So there's no criticism. This is not a prescription for making everything all right. Because I think part of acceptance is saying, sometimes we are in a space where things don't feel all right. Maybe we can just be in that space for a while. You know, I think we can get really caught up in that treadmill of trying to make everything different all of the time, and trying to make everything move and shift and make everything okay. And what's important, I think, is to remember that the nature of being human is sometimes things don't feel good. We have a whole range of feelings, and they don't necessarily need to be different or to be changed. What can be really helpful is to think about the possibility for all humans to be with uncomfortable thoughts until they shift and change. And so it might be that for a little bit of a while, you don't engage in any intimacy because you've got this sticky thinking around. That's all right. You know, it's about taking things at your pace, doing things when they feel right to you, talking when it feels right to you, sharing when it feels right to you. It doesn't have to be done on anybody else's terms. It's about honouring your own experience and knowing when feels best for you to talk, to seek support, to seek help, and when might not, and then sitting with it until it feels different. But I would always say, and I think I would because I'm a therapist, you might guess I love talking, but I love listening too. I love when people talk to me, because I think talking gives us different perspectives. And I would really encourage everybody to seek out different perspectives, because then, you know, it gives you an idea that your belief isn't the belief. And maybe that'll help you with a bit of curiosity about whether it can be different.